Jungle timings. When do camps spawn? How long does it take camps to spawn? Why does this matter so much? What's up guys, I'm Coach Eagz. And jungle timings matter because jungle camps are coordinates for both junglers. Where a camp is, a jungler is. But most junglers play with the enemy side of the map turned off. It's all well and good knowing when your camps spawn, but what about the enemy jungler's camps? You know, the player was smart on the enemy team. Essentially, this guide will teach you how to jungle track so you can take advantage of the enemy jungler's mistakes and stop your laners from dying to ganks. That will still happen, of course, but we can hope. Chapter 1. Camp respawn timers. I want to start with this chapter because it will make the subsequent timers a lot easier to understand. Krugs, Raptors, Wolves, and Gromp respawn 2 minutes and 15 seconds after being killed. In the early game, I think lots of you will know when these will respawn according to the game time, but later in the game, lots of players lose track of when their camps will respawn. An easy fix is to type in chat the initial of the camp you just cleared. For example, if you kill Krugs, you can just type K in chat, and providing you have timestamps turned on in your settings, you can easily work out when your Krugs will respawn when you have a bit of downtime, if not straight away. The other option is to install one of those third-party applications, but you're basically signing an invisible contract to become a vegetable. Have some self-respect. Now, Scuttle Crab. This bad boy respawns 2 minutes and 30 seconds after being killed. Now, because there are 2 Scuttle Crabs initially, you have to wait until both are killed before the next one respawns. So this timer can be very random. Just remember, only 1 crab keeps respawning, not 2. And if you're not sure of when a crab respawns, when you see this grey hourglass, this shows itself as soon as a camp is 60 seconds away from spawning. So if you're really good at looking at your minimap, you will spot these grey hourglasses and you can quickly type in chat the initials of that resource. So C for crab, RB for red buff, whatever it is, and you can time yourself and your clear into these resources. Very useful. Now for void grubs, these respawn 4 minutes after the last grub has been killed. The game is actually very kind to us here though, because if you press tab, you will actually have the void grub timer at the top of your screen, just like you would for dragons, barons, and buffs. So anything that spawns in either pit or with a buff, you get an actual game timer for. Now red buff and blue buff, these respawn every 5 minutes, and that's also the same for dragon. And what about baron? Well, this has a 6-minute respawn timer, but again, the game will tell you exactly when it spawns. And guys, if you do want more videos like this with me talking about a topic, please remember to leave a like down below, and any questions about anything, leave them in the comments. Chapter 2. Game timers. Here we go. Associating a resource or potential play with the time in the top right of your game is a must. For example, if I say 20 minutes, hopefully all of you say Baron. If I say 14 minutes, hopefully all of you say when Tower Plates end and Rift Herald. For lots of us though, that's it. Without the early game timers I'm about to give you, you will be lost. Timing number 1, 1:10. What on earth do we do in a game at 1 minute and 10 seconds? Well, if you're playing against a champion who can potentially invade your second buff, in other words, the buff you're not starting at, then warding your second buff's brush at 1:10 is a wise move. I know the example I'm showing, we don't ward the brush, but we still see the Graves doing the buff if he invades at level 2. This knowledge that the enemy jungler is invading our second buff then gives us the opportunity to either vertical jungle, which means we invade the enemy jungler's camps on our side of the map, or we can collapse on the invading jungler with our laners. Just quickly, I would always recommend hitting level 3 off your current quadrant and then making that move. Timing number 2, 1:25. You know when you watch pro gamers or high elo solo queue and there's a big fiesta at level 1? Well, that's because one team wants to late invade on a certain side of the map, knowing they will hard win a level 1 fight. So in this example, the blue team's level 1 is so much stronger. A Conqueror Xin Zhao against a First Strike Rengar, and a Halo Blades Varus against a fleet of Felios with no abilities. There's only one winner. Now the blue team goes very early. The advantage of late invading as close to 1:30 as possible is that you might catch the enemy jungler starting on that buff, and it makes it very difficult for them to play the game afterwards. But whatever, because of this invade, the blue team now has complete control on bot side of the map, and it eventuates in a tower dive, and GG well played. So if you have a very strong level 1 invade on one side of the map, and you're happy to potentially split the map, forcing you to play towards that lane, great idea. Just make sure one of you has a sweeper when you invade. If you are against a very strong level 1, then you need to anticipate that this might indeed happen and start on the other side of the map. Timing number 3, 1:30. Red buff, blue buff, Raptors and Wolves, these all spawn at 1:30. Simple. Timing number 4, 1:45. This is when a jungler will hit level 2 from their first camp, and if you are against one of those stronger level 2 champions like a Graves, Kindred, Jarvan, Nidalee, Shaco, why can't they invade or gank? Well, they can. So being aware of those two plays, a level 2 invade or a level 2 gank, is very important. We don't want to lose a game before it's already started. So if you're against one of those level 2 junglers, look at your minimap and danger ping any lane that is pushed up asking to get ganked. Timing number 5, 230. If 145 is when a jungler hits level 2, 230 is when a jungler hits level 3. Now, level 3, you have 3 options: to cross over to your second quadrant to keep clearing camps, to gank because you think you can kill the enemy laner or laners, or to invade because you think you can heavily pressure the enemy jungler on their second quadrant with the strong level 3 champion you're playing, like a Rek'Sai, Lee Sin, Kindred, for example. And on top of that, you have insane priority in those adjacent lanes. Lots of junglers actually become junglers at this point at level 3 because you have the chance to have a point in Q, W, and E. Some junglers who like to PvE, like Hecarim, Lilia, Nocturne, they might put another point in their Qs and cross over to the other side of the map to full clear. But other champions like Lee Sin, Xin Zhao, Rek'Sai, Sejuani, they will almost certainly have all 3 basic abilities skilled. Because they have hit their early game power spike, if you like, they will look for kills. So once again, look at the minimap and try to see it from the enemy jungler's point of view. Is that level 3 Lee Sin going to gank my bot lane that's pushed up with no summoner spells? Is that level 3 Rek'Sai, who definitely started out a red buff, going to invade me on my second buff because their laners have insane priority? Timing number 6, 330. What spawns at 330? Well, both crabs. What are junglers doing at 330? Well, if they haven't already shown, they are either finishing their full clear or they have already finished it and are looking to do the closest scuttle crab. Very fast clearers like Karthus and Brand can probably squeeze in a gank beforehand, they're so quick, but lots of other champions will just have to run straight at the crab to be there on time. Timing number 7, 350. If you started at a buff, recalling at 350 or shortly afterwards, if nothing is happening, is very efficient because after recalling and then running towards your first camp, so if you started at red buff, this will be Krugs. If you started at blue buff, this will be Gromp. These camps will respawn just as you arrive. What you're really doing is getting as many camps as possible in a game, but again, that's only if there is nothing better to do. But that's a topic for another day. Timing number 8, 4 minutes. If you started at Raptors or Wolves, they will respawn at 4 minutes. Now, if nothing is happening, so you're just focused on clearing camps, you should definitely run back to your respawning Raptors or Wolves and do them again, because there is a high chance the enemy jungler has a sniff of this camp before you get there, and they would definitely steal that camp if you recalled at 350 the last time we looked at. A nice bonus is that if you have just full cleared with a Scuttle Crab and then you come back to your respawning Raptors or Wolves, you will have around 1,000 to 1,050 gold if you were to recall and run at a base, and this could be Dirk, Balmy Cinder, Lucidity Boots. Just please remember, when I detail these timers, there are 2 sides to the jungle, so these are not just relevant if you are playing as a Raptor starting jungler. You can take advantage of this timer, for example, if you're against a Raptor starting jungler, especially if they don't run back to protect that 4-minute respawn. Timing number 9, 415. It used to be 420, but most junglers clear quick enough, so their first camp after a buff start, and this camp will either be Krugs or Gromp, these will spawn at 415. So if you haven't seen the enemy jungler, you can safely assume they're running towards this respawning camp at this time. Timing number 10, 430. This is probably the most important timer for Season 14, and it simply represents the latest you can recall and run to grubs without all of them being taken. Running out of base to the middle of the map roughly takes 30-35 seconds, and with a recall it's closer to 40 seconds. So if a lot of fights have happened, or maybe you've re-cleared your 4-minute Raptors, just like Canyon in this game, recalling ideally before 4 minutes 30 makes you as strong as possible for a potential grubs fight, or to react to the enemy doing grubs because you can't. So in this game, Enzo, a student of mine and Master EU West, decides to do his respawning Raptors, and look at the time for me. It's already past 4:30. This means that Enzo is going to really struggle to get to grubs before the enemy jungler does them all if he recalls right now. And not only that, he does Krugs as well, meaning that if he goes for any counterplay on the enemy jungler's bot side, he is way too late, and yes, FF. Timing number 10, 5 minutes. Grubs, Dragon, and there's one more resource or a quadrant of resources to be aware of. Now, if a jungler has full cleared, then the camps in their second quadrant will respawn around 5 minutes. All we're doing is adding 15 to 20 seconds to each camp, because that's how long it takes for a jungler to clear a camp in the early game, taking into account the time it takes to move to that camp as well. So if you start at a buff and then full clear, the first camp's respawn is 4 minutes 15. The next camp's respawn is 4:35-ish, and the second quadrant's first camp will respawn around 5 minutes. This is a very underutilized timer because lots of players go to grubs these days and leave their entire second quadrant up for grabs. For example, in this game, Canyon full cleared from top side to bot side and chases the longsword enemy Kindred off her Krugs, giving the HP advantage and red buff advantage. This allows him to do grubs, but 5 minutes is not just grubs, it's that second quadrant respawning too. Look at his Raptors. So what do you think he does after Grubs? The enemy Kindred will definitely think Canyon is on Grubs because who wouldn't do them here? So Kindred might be thinking, well, if Nidalee is on Grubs, I have to try to trade something for it on the other side of the map. Nidalee's bot camps, the enemy bot lane, and or Drake. Otherwise, blue team is just getting Grubs for free. Doesn't sound too good. This is why Canyon runs to Raptors to stop that counterplay. He doesn't do Gromp, he doesn't do Wolves, and it should be no surprise when Kindred shows herself in this area. For Challenger coaching, all roles, champs, star signs, my website is linked down below. My Patreon is also linked down below with well over 900 coaching sessions on there. People have climbed tiers just from watching my sessions. And this has been Coach Eagz. Don't be shy, mate.